Hey there, I'm in Defiance, and I'm joined here by Stevie for the Watchers. We're here to talk about our power rankings. All right, so let's go ahead and start off with number one. What do you got for that, Stevie?
Number one, I have to put Maria's Dungeon there. Plain and simple. Maria's Dungeon showed us last week that they are still them, and they will always still be them. Expo putting on a very, very well performance, and even in Defiance putting on a great performance as well. Mike smashing in the top lane. He was probably my biggest concern out of this current lineup that they had for that week. Mike just showing us that he is he's there to play. Uh, Pretty safe to say Maria's Dungeon first place.
All right, and then there's going to be my first place following that up. I'm going to put Cat Cowboys for now. Part of that is because I think that their win versus KOI was very strong. I do think it was a little bit worrisome how they were kind of throwing a little bit is what it felt like towards the mid game. But overall, I think that they showed that they came in with a plan and like they basically executed extremely well. I know it might seem a bit off that I'm putting up this high after you see the rest of the power rankings, but overall, I think Cat Cowboys look pretty good, and I'm just gonna go ahead and keep them there because I already had them in the number one spot for the preseason. Is there any to discuss about that, or should we just move on to our number two and then we
Oh,
discuss?
just that I disagree, and that I have Cat Cowboys in number two. I don't disagree by much. Cat Cowboys being number two feels self-explanatory in and of its own right. They played really well. 2-0'd the indomitable opponents that were KOI. Now, granted, this version of KOI, and you'll see my explanation later, is so much weaker than every KOI we've seen, or maybe everyone's just stronger. You never know, but it doesn't feel the same. This win doesn't feel as heavy as InDefiance making it out to be, in my opinion. Which is why I'm sliding them in second place.
I can see that for sure. My second place would be Maria's Dungeon. Obviously, I'm a little biased. I am moving to a semi, if not full time, jungle role, and our games have felt great so far. So I just feel like we're pretty strong. Maybe it helps that Stevie's glazing my team, so that I'm like, hell yeah, we are them. But also, it's just anytime I'm part of a team, I firmly believe in them. And once we start faltering and all, I'll be realistic. But so far we look pretty good. So I'm just pretty confident about where we are and then where we're going to end up, really. But I do
That's
agree
great to
that my Cat Cowboys rating could be a bit higher than they deserve. But I'm still expecting good things. And like as the season unfolds, we'll see movement for sure, one way or another.
mean, for sure. And speaking of movement, for my first power rankings, I mean, I had Glacial coming in fourth. I'm gonna put him at third. Uh, Glacial switched up had their lineup switch. We saw it, and they looked fantastic. They looked great. Even the questions we had surrounding some of the other laners, for example, Squishy Gup in the mid lane, you know, just might be challenger. I do not know, but she might be challenger. But that I mean, just enough 2-0 KO 2-0, actually, who did they 2-0? Was it, from Defiance?
They 2-0'd. I had it right here, and then I scrolled my thing down. But they did 2-0 to the
It was
Doctors, one of the newer
the
teams as well.
Doctors, right? And Doctors was pretty well rounded to begin with. I mean, um, it just felt very one-sided. They really knew how to close out a game, and I mean, I granted, that's what you kind of expect from a team with 3 masters on it, right? Still a legal team, by the way. And Defiance take it on away, 3rd place. What do you got?
See, I definitely agree with all your points about Glacial for sure. And again, like this is just week one, so I'm already like prepping for movement and stuff like that. I always feel like power rankings don't really start settling until week 3 or 4, just because of matchups. But I'm gonna go ahead and put Mingos here, and that's just because the Mingos that I saw on stage, I had to go against them as an E sub. When I was e-subbing for DPS, and honestly, I got fucking rolled. And I thought part of it was I think their drafts were really good, and they're just really good at making you fight these absolutely dumb fights like all the time. And like Mingos are just kind of the kings of the fiesta, and like I've seen even the best teams just basically eventually fall for it. And honestly, like there's a lot of times I thought they were gonna falter last season because I'm like, oh, it's not sustainable because of like this reason or like this, and then it ended up feeling like cope because they just ended up having the first seed, They may have lost in the semis, but like I still think that like if they had done some things differently, we would have matched up with them in the finals. And like it's just hard for me to basically, if it's the roster that I saw last week versus DPS, I feel like Bingos are going to be a top of the table team for sure. And while these newer teams that I do actually think can easily displace some of these top teams up here, um, are available. It's like for now, I'm trying to put the veteran experience, the fact that they've played Fearless before, the fact that they've drafted very well in Fearless. I think they are much less likely to pretty much draft poorly than some teams. So some teams can just have bad weeks against them. And I don't know. I just think that Mingos will be top until proven otherwise.
All good points, all good points. But unfortunately, I mean, that brings us to my number 4. Number 4 is gonna be Mingles, and I don't even mean it unfortunately because you were still in the top half and you won week 1. The thing is to InDefiance's point, the Fiestas. I love a good Fiesta. Who doesn't? Problem is that just like last time, they went out in the semifinals. Could they have done something differently? Sure, but I mean, these types of this is obviously a season where teams are more competitive, and it's clearly obvious that maybe Fiestas are not going to be a great thing. Another point, they played against DPS. DPS sucks this season. I mean, I don't know. Granted, they suck every season, and then in the gauntlet, they make a run for their lives and somehow always come out top 2 for some reason. Will it hold true this time? I have no clue, but as of right now, I mean, you played a bad team and you won. What do you want? You want a trophy or something? No, that's why number 4 for me. But in Defiance, what do you think? Where's your 4th?
It's Mr. Spicy Guy over here. I still love my boys on DPS, so we'll get to them when I get to them. But I'm gonna put Glacial here. I think that Glacial is looking extremely strong. Again, though, it's hard to say because like I do feel like the doctors are going to be at least mid-table of a team. So like I do think that the win was very impactful, but again, like it's against a newer team with a newer org, so it's just really hard to say. But they did look very clean doing it. So I would say that Glacial is pretty much just right up there for me. I think that you can easily put them in the top 4. But like as these weeks kind of like push out, it's gonna take a bit before we really see exactly where these teams deserve to be ranked. But I do think that Glacial will end up being top of the table towards the end of the season.
All good points. And I think this is where things start to get a little bit more agreeable between Defiance and I. So for 5th, I have JPJ, Dropboard Jokers. Also a winner coming out this week 1. But honestly, also against a relatively weak team, in my opinion. But still a win nonetheless. I just need to see more.
Yeah,
It's
no,
week 1. A
I'm
lot of these rankings are going to be. We need to see more.
yeah, super volatile. But yeah, no, I like I just 100% agree. I am actually like super high on JPJ. I feel like I was high when I was describing to you them before, even though I still put them like lower on the rankings just from them being unknown. I think that their drafts looked really good, really thematic. Like if you just look at their drafts, it looks like they wrote that draft on paper and they got every champion they wanted to me. Because like you know what I mean? Like you get a Galio comp and you have Camille Jarvan and then you get your Caitlyn Morgana. It just like if you have a draft like that, it sounds like you just literally checked boxes. Like you just got everything that you wanted. Their first draft was a bit spicier. You had the Gwen top super OP pick right now, then followed up with the Pantheon jungle, something that people don't use often, but is a fantastic complement together with Talia. They are known as a combo. That's why they were a bot lane combo together back in the Griffin days, if anyone remembers that. And then you follow that up with the disengage of Janna and Ezreal. Like so, basically, like you can kind of see what this team's trying to do. I think that they have a vision for their team comps, and again, like you said, they went against the Tigers though, and unfortunately, with the new look Tigers, as far as I see their roster, I don't have them. I don't have like an extremely high opinion of them until I change my mind. So like, I would love to put JPJ higher, but with their first week opponent, it's just kind of impossible.
And then I 100% agree. But that's the problem that we're going to see like here between two teams that are unknown is that a team loses pretty poorly. then unfortunately, since we already don't know anything to begin with, they're gonna slot down pretty poorly. Kind of like a little foreshadowing to come. But before that, I have next. I have KOI. I I had faith. Okay, I had him winning 2-1 against Cowboys. I thought maybe we could spruce something up, but no, it's just a little. The changes in the top and the support lane just make it a little bit too. It's too much of a difference maker. It seems. So unless something can change here, um, then I see KY being in the latter half of this entire leaderboard, unfortunately.
See, I had to put them in the same spot. I think that they can easily improve from week to week, but I just think that from what I saw week one, just doesn't seem it. They seem like way more disjointed than expected from a team that has played together this long. As a league full of vets, I feel like a lot of teams have played together for a long time. I feel like KOI have played together for an extremely long time. So I thought to me they would come out of the gate with like decent drafts, cover up their weaknesses at the very least. The mid to late game synergy would start to show, which maybe it could have, because like again, Cat Cowboys looked a little bit weaker towards that stage of the game, especially in game one. But like overall, like just from watching that series, it just definitely didn't invoke the feelings of KOI. Voperto still looks amazing. Frostbite still super consistent DPS, but like overall, they didn't feel consistent. They didn't feel like really together as I expected. And like you said, unless something changes, I don't really know if they're going to be completely top of the table. But I wouldn't write them off. Like they're definitely a team I would never write off. But I would say that my expectations were pretty dashed because I think we pretty much had them top two in the preseason. So like watching that game, I think we're just very hesitant to put them any higher until they start stringing together some series.
Yeah, yeah, no, I'd agree 100%. Like I said, I have nothing against KOI. I really do think I still think that they're really good. It just happens to be pretty pretty upsetting in my opinion.
No, I
Just
agree, and
how they landed.
I think like if it was just like the gameplay and then like getting this new look kind of like together, if that seemed like it was the only problem, I would have been like, oh yeah, like it's just growing pain, stuff like that. But the fact that the drafts looked a little bit kind of scuffed to me. I feel like in some forms, I don't like think they're necessarily terrible, but like I think that definitely harmed them pretty heavily in the games. And this is like their first time doing fearless as well. So like I do think they generally I would imagine them having champion pools, especially from the core three that are in their main role still. But overall, I think like especially with the draft and the way they looked against Cat Cowboys, like I'm definitely gonna put them a lot lower, especially because a lot of these new teams are coming in. I want to hype them up. Um, but for now, KOI has to drop pretty heavily.
Yeah. I mean, and then next, not as much of a drop for me, but I have Pat and not Pats. Just a little a little disappointing in my opinion how you know game was played. Granted, they did play against Maria's Dungeon, right? It's already difficult as it is. But Mike absolutely stomped, right? Like who I was worried the most about Maria's Dungeon absolutely stomped. So when you have that type of game where your top lane just loses so badly, and not even the rest of the team is doing that bad, especially in like even game one where the ADC was pretty well off for in terms of pan and not pats. It just felt like everyone else was so behind.
Yeah, I
Oh,
kind of agree there, but we do have to remember they did have an E sub. So basically, the rest of their team was exactly pretty much the same, but they had Lord Coffee Table because I'm pretty sure this is the team that they would run regardless with the other four. But they have a lower ranked top laner, and normally they would have Drew. And Drew is super good. He's always
oh
been
yeah,
super
true.
consistent on Cat Cowboys. He was like I always foresee him as the gangplank player, like constantly against like all these other tank top laners. So he's generally been like a pretty top tier top laner that's been on their team. I think they will look drastically different. So like for me, they are down here for now. but I have them like on a spring. They're like ready to spring up, but again, I'm pretty high up on like a lot of these up and coming teams as well. So even if they are super good, I'm hoping that basically like that just shows the level of competition the split.
Now that I think about it, yeah, you're pretty right. I didn't really notice the E sub a little too much. I was giving a little too much weight to the top lane, so I agree in Defiance. I think they are in the spring. I
Yeah,
think we can expect a lot from week 2.
yeah, I'm basically like I have them down here, and I didn't really like putting them down here. It's kind of the same with like KOI, but like I think that I have the Pats and the not Pats pretty much on a much more of like a spring loaded scenario than KOI from what I saw, and I think Pat and not Pats will look completely different next week. I think basically they've been scrimming a lot from what I hear, and then especially with Drew pretty much every time. So I think not having that pressure topside and then being able to play the map completely differently, probably from how they're used to. Maybe they're used to being like a grub or top heavy team as well, while the other parts of the map do its thing. It's just always hard to say. So like I do heavily expect that we'll see a completely different looking Pat and the not Pats these coming weeks.
Well, hopefully. Well, and the next slot I have the Doctors. Um, Unfortunately, not much to say. Losing out, losing their match at a pretty 2-0 fashion. Quite unfortunate in my opinion. They were against Glacial Golems. It was pretty, in my opinion, pretty one-sided. It just happened to be, might be first week jitters. It could be other things, but it definitely just seemed to be a little bit of a team diff. Except in game 2, where Chessmaster actually started to get going. Unfortunately, the rest of the team was so far behind that you know it it just didn't matter.
Yeah, and
Uh,
I definitely agree with that.
mhm,
I think that like the way I see it is, first week is always first week, so you can't really put too much weight. So being lower on the power rankings doesn't really like mean honestly that much, because like it's all just matchup dependent. These are two completely new teams as well, so we're unsure of exactly where these guys stack up with the rest of the league, especially because people find their footing as the league goes on. But for now, being a newer team and losing in a dominant fashion, especially in week one, that's just going to put you lower on, especially because we don't know what to expect from history. So instead, with like
but,
no history, you just end up a little bit lower.
well, yeah, and I mean to continue to hit on those points. I mean that's why I have Tigers next. Um, I don't think DOV Tigers. I think DOV Tigers trying to find their footing, but unfortunately, since that's what's happening, I have to place them all the way down because I don't know how long it's gonna take for them to find their footing. Losing in a 2-0 fashion to JPJ, it also felt like it was a very one-sided type of matchup. It just doesn't seem like there's a lot of synergy there, or maybe there is. Maybe the team really needs some practice. I'm not sure. Like I said, I don't know DOB. I would love to, watch them play a scrim or get some information, see what's happening, so have some insider knowledge. But until I have that, they're going to be slot in ninth for me.
See, I'm gonna put DPS because it sucks because I just won finals with two of these people, so I firmly believe that like even you said even when you were mocking them, you're like they still end up top two, so like I do think with these players they know what it takes to win even if it takes some time. It does seem like they start off the splits pretty slow. I played with them a bit, and unfortunately, and this also falls onto me a bit too because I'm supposed to be pretty vocal. I'm a jungler, I do set the tone, but it did feel pretty disjointed. I know that they hadn't had any scrims yet before I played with them, so it's just hard to say. We're going to be seeing a better look at them this week, but like David likes to take his 80 carry mindset to heart, and they scale. So early game 80 carries aren't so good. So I'm going to put them in like how 80 carries are in the first 5 minutes of a game is that pretty much any other role can solo them. So let's just hope that basically he's able to find his power spikes before the dragon stacking starts happening. Is the you know way I'm going to state it.
That brings me to my last 10th place. We all knew it was coming. DPS 10th. In all seriousness, I might be being a little too harsh on DPS, but I don't know. It just they just got. It just seems like the comps were maybe a little bit better on the side of On the side of Mingos, I mean, we've always known Mingos has some spicy comps, and if from what I know, DPS has struggled with draft, like, absolutely struggled. Um, I mean, game 2 definitely had more presence on the map, and in game 1, it's also about having more presence even though InDefiance was on the Nocturne, it just seemed like things got out of hand way too quickly. Like I said, I wasn't playing, I'm not in Defiance, so I don't know exactly what could have been better, but I know they'll find their footing, they eventually do.
I do think there's a sense that it also could have been a stylistic matchup because, like how I said, how the Mingos like to turn things into fiestas. I definitely know that David likes to play very controlled games. So I know when games go away from that, it goes away more from his comfort zone. I know he's able to sometimes bring those back. Obviously, as I've played with him, but I do think that. Playing against people who play in a more standard way, I think you'll be able to see DPS act more like the DPS you'd normally kind of expect, depending on your expectations, of course. But I do think that it could have been a stylistic matchup, and that that's just the pains of week one. My 10th place is going to be Tigers. Personally, I had them here week one. Part of that is because I didn't know who the heck their roster was. I saw it get locked in. Still didn't really know about them. When you look at it on paper, especially not knowing the players, still going to put them lower just because you don't know, you don't have anything from history. Not sure. Then they got beat pretty convincingly by a newer org. And then not only that, but I'm still unsure if this is going to be the last iteration of the roster we see. Generally, from season to season, we kind of see rosters that definitely have a lot of turnover, and it's looking like it's probably going to be the Tigers this time around. Um, so I think that basically we're going to see the Tigers probably have a bit of turnover, probably like eventually find their footing in some type of roster. And then whenever they truly lock in their roster, I think that's when we'll probably start seeing some movement on the power rankings. But until I see them and I basically see them take a game, see a roster that feels like it's consistent, then I can't really move them off of 10th because, like, not knowing who's really going to play, hard to really put them any higher.
Yep, and, honestly, with that being said, that kinda wraps up our power rankings here.